A widow walks into a shop with her late husband's watch. She leaves with rent money and a ticket. That transaction just invented modern urban finance. It's 1890. London, the East End. A woman stands at a three-ball sign, the universal symbol of the pawnbroker. She's not desperate, she's rational. Her factory job pays weekly, but rent is due today. The pawnbroker takes her shawl, gives her sixpence, and hands her a numbered ticket. She'll retrieve it in a month when wages come. No morality tale, no sermon, just geometry. Need now, payment later. This system didn't emerge yesterday. It's ancient, and it shaped how cities work. Let's rewind. The pawnbroker didn't start in England, Italy, medieval Florence around the 14th century. Wealthy families, the Medici, the Pazzi, needed ways to lend money without violating Catholic doctrine against usury. The answer, collateral. You give me something of value, I hold it. You pay me back with interest and you get your object returned. The church had no problem with this. Why? Because you weren't borrowing money on faith. You were securing a loan with stuff. The sin of usury, charging for time itself, disappeared. But here's the small irony that historians love. The pawnbroker became the opposite of elite. By the 16th century, it was the working poor who walked through those doors. Why? Because cities were exploding. Migration from countryside to factory towns meant millions of people with no savings, no family network, no safety net. They lived paycheck to paycheck. Literally. A coal miner in Manchester earned his wage on Friday. Rent was due Monday. The pawnbroker filled that 3-day gap. He was infrastructure, and unlike what you might think, the pawnbroker wasn't a predator. Not always. The rates were regulated. In England, the 1603 statute set pawn interest at 20% per annum, steep by today's math, but not catastrophic if you're repaying in weeks, not years. The shop itself was transparent, public, regulated by city guilds. Your grandmother's ring didn't vanish into shadows. It sat in a locked cabinet with hundreds of others, cataloged, insured, retrievable. There was an order to it. The pawnbroker also did something no other lender did. He asked almost no questions. No credit history. No employment verification. He didn't care if you were respectable. He cared about the object. A gold ring was a gold ring whether it belonged to a duchess or a scullery maid. In a society obsessed with class, the pawnshop was the one place where wealth spoke louder than status. That's not cynicism. That's structure. And that structure welcomed people the banking system ignored. By the 1800, pawnbrokers had become so essential to urban life that they were everywhere. London had thousands. New York, Paris, Berlin, same story. Entire districts grew around them. Not slums, mixed neighborhoods. Because pawn loans weren't a mark of shame. They were a normal part of managing weekly wages. A school teacher might pawn a watch during summer when pupils didn't pay tuition. A seamstress pawned her winter coat in spring, retrieved it in autumn. Seasonal, predictable, rational. But the pawnbroker did something else, something economists didn't fully recognize until much later. He created data. Every transaction was logged. Name, date, item, value, interest rate, redemption date. Over decades, you could see patterns. What did working families own? What did they need? When did they need it? This wasn't surveillance. It was information. And information is the skeleton of any credit system. The pawnbroker, without knowing it, was building the infrastructure for modern consumer lending. There's a reason banks didn't dominate personal lending for centuries. They couldn't. Banks wanted collateral they understood: land, bonds, commercial paper. A factory worker's ring, a servant's shawl, worthless to a banker, too much trouble to value, store, and liquidate. The pawnbroker had no such squeamishness. He became the financial institution for everyone else. Not out of charity, out of profit. Small loans, high volume, fast turnover. The math worked. Then came the 20th century. Social safety nets appeared. Unemployment insurance, welfare, minimum wage laws. Suddenly, the gap between payday and rent wasn't so terrifying. And simultaneously, consumer credit exploded. Credit cards, installment plans, lines of credit. Banks realized they could lend directly to working people if they had data, credit scores, employment records, banking history. The pawnbrokers' world began to shrink, not disappear, shrink. But here's what's crucial. The pawnbroker never actually left. Walk through any American city today. They are there. Different signs sometimes, same function. And in places where credit systems are weak, developing nations, marginalized communities, pawnbroking hasn't shrunk at all. It's boomed. Because the pawnbroker solves a problem that credit cards can't. He lends to people with nothing to prove and everything to offer. A ring is a ring. An object has value independent of your history. So what did the pawnbroker actually invent? Not lending, not collateral, but this. A system that made credit accessible without gatekeeping. No credit score, no employment letter, no family name, just an object, a valuation, a ticket, and a date. For centuries, that was the only lending available to millions of people. And it worked. Cities grew, families survived, economies functioned. All because someone decided that a widow's watch was worth lending against. That widow from 1890 London, she got her shawl back, paid her rent, went to work Monday. No debt spiral, no predatory terms, just a 3-week loan at a known rate backed by something she owned. Was it perfect? No, but it was honest, and for most of history that's been enough. The pawnbroker didn't transform lending out of ideology. He transformed it because the math was there, the need was real, and the object didn't lie. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe. We're unpacking the hidden systems that shaped how you borrow, spend, and survive. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.